Hello, this is Watch All About, and in this watch review, we're looking at one of Melbourne Watch Co.'s latest releases, and that is the Avalon. This is their first dabble into aviation style watches, and the name Avalon actually comes from an airfield in Melbourne City itself, so that's a nice little tie. Um, so we'll have a look at it quite close up to see if it's a decent watch for the money. So the price then, it will cost you 549 Australian dollars, which equates to 395 American dollars, or if you are in England like I am, it'll be 263 pounds approximately. So let's just think about the specs. So first thing you'll notice is the case is DLC coated, which is diamond like carbon, which is this black matte feeling to it, and then we have matching coated buckle. Size wise, it's quite a big watch, 45 mil in diameter, a 12 mil height, which is reasonably slender for the size, which is a good positive, and then a lug to lug length of 54 mil. So that's quite a large size. I've got a 7.25 inch wrist, and I think I'm teetering on whether it's acceptable for me. So if you were to have a smaller wrist, 7 inches and below, unless you really set out and really liked larger watches, I think it would be quite a struggle for you to be able to wear it. So it's certainly not a small watch. It demands a lot of attention, and I'll admit that when I first saw the designs and the pictures, it didn't really grab me. I didn't desperately want to, didn't want to review it. I didn't think it, I didn't fall in love with it. But as soon as I got it, it actually really impressed me. Just the quality of it is one of the best quality watches that Melbourne have done to date. And one thing that particularly impressed me was the sapphire crystal and the anti-reflective coating. You can see, as I'm in a conservatory at the moment, so it's bound to provide more reflections than usual, but you can see we have a nice flash of blue with the anti-reflective coating, and in the flesh it's really good, really impressive. And I always think that a decent anti-reflective coating makes a difference between a watch looking quite average and a watch looking really quite special. So I've definitely found that with the Avalon. There's been nothing dropped in terms of quality there. Another thing I noticed was the exquisite nature of the dial. It's been very well done, and I was sort of expecting it to be, a little bit not necessarily as high quality as it was. For instance, the little badge here with Avalon on it, I was expecting that to look a little bit cheap, but that is actually really good, and the dial texture, all really high quality, and I was expecting it to maybe not be quite as good as it was. So many positives in a way, that it has impressed me in those aspects. So moving on then, the weight of it, despite it being quite large, it's quite a nice comfortable weight. It's 101 grams on the leather strap, so it's perfectly comfortable when you're wearing it. It has a water resistance rating of 50 meters. I mentioned before, it has a sapphire crystal, which is obviously something you'd come to expect really. The strap to go with the large case is 24 mil at the lug, going down to 22 mil at the buckle. So quite a sensible size strap. The movement is a movement that I haven't seen yet in a affordable watch, and that's the Miyota 90S5 open heart caliber. As you can see the open heart here. We can see the movement at the back, and there's the other side to the open heart. See through there, which is pretty cool. Specs are very good on it. It's a high beat movement, so it runs at 28.8 thousand beats per hour, which equates to 8 ticks a second, which means you get a very nice smooth sweep on the second hand, as you can see. It's renowned for being quite reasonably accurate as well, so you're not likely to get a duff movement. That's straight out of the factory, I mean. Other specs are that it has hand winding capabilities, which is good, and a hacking second as well. So if I pull the crown out to set the time, the second hand stops. One thing to mention is the winding of the rotor only goes one way, and that's clockwise as you're looking at it from the back. So as the rotor goes that way, that's the only time that it'll be winding the watch. Many movements are only winding one way, and it never really creates much of an issue. Just thought it was worth mentioning. And then it has 24 joules as well. Not that you'd be counting that kind of thing. Okay, so let's just have a brief look and just wipe the crystal. Brief look at the dial then. So as you can see, we have quite an intricate pattern on the main dial, and this is a shuriken pattern. For you and I, that means a ninja star. You know, those kind of things that ninjas throw at people to kill them. But we can look at that in closer detail when I get the macro lens on. Surrounding that, we have a nice concentric circular pattern around the edge, which is very deep, very definite as well. And then surrounding that, we just have a subtle minute track, which is cool. The logo is located at 12, and that's printed on its own little miniature platform. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the Avalon at 9 on its own little tiny plaque, which is quite intricate despite the size. So that's a really nice little touch. And then obviously we have the open heart movement with this little danger kind of warning that you'd see on an airstrip or an airfield, tying in with the aviation theme. Then the hands, slightly skeletonized and loomed tops, big fat swords, and a yellow running second hand as well. So it's nice to see the yellow coming through in that way as well. So I think the design is good. The loom is orange and it's C3 Superluminova, so it's reasonably strong as well. Charges quite quickly and glows quite well. So the dial in itself is it's quite impressive, and I've had quite a few comments on how nice looking the watch is as well as I've been wearing it. So moving on to the case, it's as I mentioned before, DLC coated. Apart from the case back, obviously to ensure that you can unscrew the case back easily from the case, because if they're both coated, then this becomes much more difficult to undo. So that's perfectly sensible, and it's not as if you're going to notice it as you're wearing it. The DLC coating is very thick. Looks like it's going to be very hard wearing, which is good. And we have a classic Melbourne style crown with the logo on the end there. So the DLC coating itself is quite a matte finish. Doesn't really show up many fingerprints, which is good as well. So it's quite a good design and quite a good style that I personally really like. Obviously, the case back, we have an exhibition window for the movement as well, and the movement we have the Melbourne logo slightly etched on there as well, which is a nice little touch to see, because you don't see too many manufacturers going through that effort. So that's good. That's nice of Melbourne to do that. Moving on to the strap then, it's leather. It's very thick as well. 24mm at the top. So it's it takes a lot of wrist space. Very comfortable though, very soft and supple. So it's quite a good leather strap for the watch, which is really what you'd expect when you're spending 260 quid. And there we have it. And then the buckle is a classic Melbourne style as well, with this bulge here to be able to hold the Melbourne logo, which is a nice touch. I like it, the way they've brought that through, so that's good. Okay, so I'll just get the macro lens on and we'll have a look at it in a little bit further detail. So if we start with the dial, I have to excuse the... Okay. So here's the Shuriken, style. Not particularly related to aviation, but it's a nice texture, something a little bit different to the normal textures you'd see. So kudos to Melbourne Watch Co for doing something a little bit different. It's the texture is really well, flawlessly done as well, and then surrounding that we have this really strong concentric circular texture as well, as you can see once I get it in focus. There you go. So the logo is on its own little platform, printed nicely as well. And here's the little Avalon plaque. As you can see, is very intricate and nicely manufactured for something so small. I expect that probably took quite a lot of effort into designing and building that. So that's a really nice little plus of theirs to go into that effort. So moving on to the open heart. There's the warning area. Do not step into this area. And then we have the top side of the movement as well. Again, very nicely machined considering the size, and this is like the kind of bit that I was expecting to look a little bit cheap, but they've proved to be really good, and they've done a really good job in manufacturing that. The hands, again, nicely manufactured, nicely made. Can't really find any fault with them at all. And then there's the running second hand as well. Sorry, I was talking out my bottom earlier. It's actually orange, not yellow. I don't know why I said that the hands were yellow, but they're orange. So apologies for that. So finally, the hour markers, again, very nicely machined, polished edging to supply a nice little bit of reflection when the light hits them nicely. So that's the dial. So just moving on to the case, here's the crown, the Melbourne logo set within it. And the matte kind of nature and finish to the DLC coating as well. And then if we flick it over, be able to see this case back with the details etched around the outside, quite deeply engraved, which is good to see. And then of course we have the movement within as well, 90S5 by Miyota. There's the Melbourne logo engraved on the end. If I just flip it over, we'll be able to see the open heart from the back. See my fingers through there. There we have it. So just finally onto the strap. Have the top of the leather, very soft, decent stitching as well, good quality. Looking at the side, nicely sealed as well. And then underneath we have some stamps. There's Melbourne logo stamped on one side, and you can see the how soft it is on the underside as well, so it's very comfortable on the wrist. And then finally we just have the buckle to have a look at. So there's the Melbourne logo engraved on the DLC coated buckle. We can see the quality of that as well. Okay, so I'm not going to deny it, £263 is a lot of money. Especially when you think of, you can get some Swiss-made watches for a little bit more. But Melbourne Watch Co have always been a very, very good watch brand, providing excellent watches. And I feel that the Avalon has actually stepped them up another notch. It's really impressed me in the finishing. The quality is certainly better than what I was expecting at this price, and I really like the design. Personally, I don't see too much relating between it and Aviation, but I still really like the design. I think it's quite a phantom-looking watch, almost, with the amount of black on it, and for that I really like it. I think it's a very cool-looking watch, which is well designed and very, very well put together. So I'm really impressed with it. So well done to Sir Jane and his watchmaking skills with the Melbourne Avalon. So there we go. So this was the Melbourne Avalon, and that's Watch All About.